most honest part of a human by doing that.
Absolutely. Well, that's kind of, I know we've met a good few times now, but it's always like passing conversation. So I just thought that is a guy who I want to sit down and have a proper chat with. But you're always speaking, or I'm speaking, or we're just like passing ships. And it'd be nice to sit down and just hear a bit about you, mate. How have things been? How was London yesterday?
Good, mate. Yeah. So we went and visited probably the poshest place I have ever been in my whole entire life.
I saw you suited and booted.
Rare, but it was like I think it's the most, what's the term? It's the most expensive piece of land per square metre in the country.
Oh, really?
Where we was. Yeah, it was smack bang in the middle of London. Mate, there's rugby pitches and football pitches in there. You would never, ever think it. The building itself was just unbelievable. I stood up like a sore thumb. I was just getting looked up into. I couldn't go in 70% of the place, mate, just because of what I was wearing.
You were dressed quite well though, weren't you? I thought you were pretty damn smart.
I was then, but as I turned up, because I got the train down from Liverpool, I was obviously just in like a tracksuit, just chilled as what I normally am. I go to work every day in shorts and t-shirts. So it's like, when I turned up at the camp, it was like, who are you? People turned up in bowler hats and stuff, mate. It was like back in the 50s.
Oh, really? That's interesting, though, is that prejudgment that people have. I noticed I had similar circumstances a little while ago. I know I've got a hat on today. Bloody freezing. So my office is in the other garden. And I have got a heater in here, but it's quite noisy. And this microphone picks everything up, so I've just turned it off. But I popped into the post office just to, old school, post something, recorded delivery not so long ago. And I had a baseball cap on. And honestly, the way... I don't know, perhaps it's my chip on my shoulder. I don't know. I didn't think anything of it to begin with. She was just so rude. And I was very polite. And actually, the more rude she became, and the more unhelpful she became, the more polite I became. But I left there seething, like just, I guess, because of how I dress every day, same as you. I'm in sportswear all the time. I joked to my wife, I dress like a teenager, basically.
Yeah, 100%. I also apologise that I'm actually looking that way when I know that the camera's over there. My screen's there; it's picking up on my phone. I don't know why, so I apologise.
That's right. Mate. I'll just do a nice little edit of this and just say Mike just kept checking himself out.
Yeah. I keep trying to stay here, and then I'm thinking I can't see you, and I'm like,
yeah, it is off-putting. I have a screen here. I can't have it plugged in or on when I'm recording because I'm like a magpie. Anything that crops up, you'll just see me flitting to the side.
Nice, mate. We're good.
Your baptism into the military is quite an interesting one, and you've briefly spoken to me about it, and I've overheard you speak to others about it. But I think people will hear all your accolades and what you've done in the military and how you've taken. I definitely want to get onto those things in terms of like strength and conditioning and clear progressive lines of training and breaking away from that archaic. I think what's the army expression? I've heard it before. That's what we've always done.
We've always done it this way.
Yeah, sorry, paraphrasing. But what your immediate steps was to support your sister, right?
To join the army originally, yeah. So, yeah.
If you don't mind talking about that, by the way.
No, of course not. So back then, when I was younger, going through school, the bottom line is I've got a father who didn't want me and a mother I couldn't save, and ultimately it was to put food on the table for my little sister. And so I joined the army as the quickest way to get money. I then joined the parachute regiment because somebody told me that if I passed, I would earn an extra £200 a month. So for specialist pay, no brainer. So that was what I did. The quickest way to get the most amount of money, and I joined the military for that sole purpose of helping out back home.
Yeah, I guess that's quite interesting because most people, well, I say most people, at least my limited understanding, but I know a few people that have worked in the military, but sometimes it's either that route of I just need to make money now, or it's protect Queen and country. I'd suggest probably the latter less so these days.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm extremely patriotic now, but it didn't start then. I had no, I didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't do it because I saw, the Twin Towers on the telly. I didn't do it because I wanted to fight the Taliban and I wanted to do it for the Queen. I literally did it because I realised it was the fastest way I could put food on the table, and that's hand on heart why I did it, and that's why I survived the training I did.
Yeah, And did you? I guess you took on quite a parental role for your sister by the sounds of it. Was she much younger than you?
Yeah, she's 7 years younger than me, so she was 10 at the time when I joined, and now she's got a master's degree in linguistics. She's she's doing really well for herself.
Oh, because that must be quite hard
So
moving away from
we did
her.
all right, mate. We did all right, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Given the circumstances as well, because I think a lot of that will resonate. I mean, you mentioned using your phrasing like a dad didn't want you. I had very similar experience, and I found like as a man and a young boy that quite difficult to carve my way out in the world. I didn't really know what that looked like because of everything I was exposed to in terms of emulating what a man should be and should be to their family and those around them. I didn't really have a role model for that.
No, and I think I took on that mantelpiece very quickly. I guess I'm very lucky. I guess I'm very, it just came to me quite naturally. And that's what I did. I just did the best I could with the shit hand I was dealt and ran with it, mate. And I think I'd like to think that anybody in my position would ultimately do the same.
Yeah. Well, you'd hope. I'm sure there's plenty of
examples so,
that haven't done. Yeah, because that must have been quite a baptism for you, having to grow up quite quick, and then obviously joining the military as well. That's not a young boy's path, I guess. You're forced to be a man quite quickly with that as well.
You're doing the unit I joined, so I didn't really do my research on it, mate. I just presumed that was the way the army was. I didn't. Again, the money was the deciding factor about who I joined. Joined the parachute regiment, and 9 out of 65 made it. So that can tell you that the stats will tell you how hard it was. But the sole reason that I survived above grown men twice my age was my why was so strong that if I didn't win, then we didn't get fed. And therefore, you're not beating me at that.
Yeah. Did you find that quite difficult, that initial process then?
When you horrendous, mate. The whole
because when you say that, because like obviously I know your interest is in the physicality and that side of things. That's obviously without doubt that's going to be extremely vigorous and torturous. I don't think torturous is a unfair use of the word. What they put you through initially.
Pretty fair, yeah. It's I wasn't physically ready at all. I hadn't prepared whatsoever for it from a physiological standpoint. I just survived. I was probably very close so often. They probably wanted to get rid of me, but I wasn't going anywhere. As long as they kept putting that money in the bank, I was fine. And I was passing the minimum standard. So obviously a few years later, I went and went way above and beyond that and ended up becoming one of the instructors for it. But at the start, I was just so young, so naive, and just struggled my way through it every day. If I'm honest with you, I just held on for dear life and somehow made it through.
Well, that's a testament to your mentality probably as well. And as you said, that solidified why. Did that spark that impetus, I guess, like when you was going through that yourself, like this is counterintuitive. I'm broken. Like you want me to perform at my best? Like this isn't.
No, it didn't spark anything. And I had no intention whatsoever of running down the physical side of life. No intention of coaching. There was nothing in there. I was decent at PE. I played a good level of football when I was younger. That's about as far as my interest went. It was all I wanted to do was then be the best soldier. So I made it through that, and then I just wanted to be as good as I possibly could from a soldiering perspective. Is what I split development up now 4 ways: physiological, psychological, tactical, and technical. And that model allows us to have a holistic view on development. Tactical and technical side of soldiering is soldiering. You want to be a better soldier? Soldier. You want to be better at running? Go out and run. The physiological and the psychological supplement that. I had no intention whatsoever from the phys side. Obviously, I was fit because I made it through that. But then I just wanted to be the best soldier I possibly could be. So everything went into that. And that's what I did. So when I first went, because I was so young, I couldn't go on the first tour when I first got there. So when I first got there, everyone went out to Africa. They all got handed a set of deserts, and I got handed a set of twos, which is like the military's dress. And my job as 17-year-old, I was part of a team in charge of replats and funerals. And that was my job for 6 months as 17-year-old. It was like the shittest time of my life, if I'm honest with you. One of the worst things I've ever done. One of the worst things I've ever been through. And so everyone else went out on tour, and that was my job. I just, carried the boys who fell out there, and I grew up pretty quickly on that.
I get there's nothing mentally, even if you knew you were stepping into that could have prepared you for that. Like, I don't think I certainly can't fathom that. Like, what you would have been exposed to.
No, yeah, and it's something I don't really talk about it very often, to be honest. It's something it was just a part of my life, that it was just a job that I had to do it. I didn't want to do it, but because of who I was, I did it to the absolute best of my ability. And they deserved it. But ultimately, I used to carry the coffins, and I would just be thinking, I don't deserve to do this. Like, this guy's a hero, and who the fuck am I? Who am I? Like, and it wasn't a nice feeling. And then the parents would be asking me how do I know the son, and I'd just be like, I don't. And it was just a really awful situation to be in. It was something that, it was a really poor time in my life, but I grew from it, and we move on, don't we? We just do the things that we have to do to the best of our ability. Someone had to do it, and it was me.
Yeah, at 17, like I look back at, obviously at 17 you feel grown up, but I look back at it being 17 now, and you're still a kid.
Yeah, so that first year. So you think about my high school years when my mum was not well, an alcoholic, and the things that we've seen at home, and I'm pretty much doing this whatever I possibly can to get money in any sort of way you can imagine. Leave school, literally left school. I always joke about it, doing double science on the Friday, and I'm in the army on the Monday. And my first 6 months is Power Depot, which is notoriously ruthless. It's horrendous. 9 out of 65 made it. The next 6 months, I'm on repats and funerals. It's like that whole adolescent development was pure psychological. Like, if you don't grow up from that, then I don't know. And I can imagine, you don't think about it now. And I don't often think about it, if I'm honest. It's sort of, I don't erase it from my memory, but I just don't give it any time before. But you can imagine that I'd break a lot of people. Whether they made it through the first part, but I think that's the second part.
That's a true test of resilience, and I find a lot with like communication around resilience. I can't speculate on everyone, but it's often, I guess, from your standpoint, you must be thinking you've got no idea what actually some people have to endure. So when people are talking about resilience and their mental capacity, and maybe even from a business standpoint, there's certain facets of business that is challenging, but it doesn't compare to that. And I know everyone's plight is valid in that instance, but your brain's got this, I always think, is this incredible capacity to keep you safe and preserve your sanity to a certain degree. So you would have had to push some of that stuff away because you couldn't deal with it because you didn't have time to. You just had to do it. And the testament of your character is how you came out the other end of that.
Yeah, and I used to think that, and my mindset was I had it easy. So my mindset when I joined the army was that my little sister's got it hard because she's still at home. And my mindset when I was doing the repats and funerals was, this is easy because the boys are still out there fighting. And so at every single step of the way, I was thinking, it's not that bad. There's someone else out there who's worse. And now you think, you come full fast forward and, go into war after that. And, myself, when I was old enough to go, the things that I then went and did. And then I'm out and people are like, you find it tough with the business side of life. We're running quite successful businesses now. We're doing okay for ourselves as a group. And I'm like, this is easy. This isn't stressful. Not one person tried to blow me up today. Not one. And I was like, life's easy.
Well,
I never got shot at today.
Yeah. The power of perception, right? Life is what we see it as, and it's based on our past and previous experiences. I mean, how, if you don't mind me asking, with your experiences growing up, with what you was exposed to with your parents, and now as a dad yourself, a parent yourself, and because I always find this a difficult line to teeter, right? So I've got two myself, and it's, you don't want them to experience what you have, right? But at the same time, you want them to grow up with a certain level of resilience. You don't want them to be too vulnerable, too protected from the world, because if you don't prep them for the world in some capacity, the world's going to do it for you, so rather it's a graduated thing yourself. It's even like mild disappointment, so not always getting your own way. Actually, we've got rigid rules around TV time and what you are and you aren't allowed to do. How do you find that? as a dad now?
Hard, because all you want to do is cuddle them, and I can't ever imagine not doing that. And I give the most amount of love I possibly can to my babies. I'm not going to lie and tell you I don't, because I do. I'm the first one, if they're in trouble and done something wrong, I'm the first one to go and give them a cuddle. You know, I'm the soft arse of me and my wife. But I think what's really, really key, and it's something I do with all of my staff now from a business point of view, I do it with my children, it's exploration. Go and learn, because it's the only way. The only way they're going to learn is by doing. And it's, you know, and you have to provide them a safe space to do that. It's safe to fail. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's really important for growth is that, and I always joke about my wife and say, you know, she got cuddled her whole life. She has no idea the shit that I went through. And she's got lovely parents, lovely grandparents. I've got none of that. Grandparents, parents, none of it. She's had everything lovely growing up. And so I think we have a really, really good balance of what's the right thing. Because you got to remember as well, I don't actually know what's right and wrong. So I'm learning as well. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I do know from a human point of view, the first thing we do is protect. And the second, in my opinion, is to love and to nourish them. And that's, you know, and that's coming from, supposedly I'm meant to be a hard-ass paratrooper. And the first thing I want to do is love and protect my children, my little boy, my little girl. And I think that's really, really important. But I think providing them that safe space to fail and explore is so, so key. And my little girl's like me. She's relentless. She just wants to run everywhere. And my little boy now I can see is going to be exactly the same. She wants to climb. And he turns 1 in a couple of weeks. And all he wants to do is climb and jump and throw himself off everything he possibly can. Stick his head in anything he can. Whatever. Puts his fingers in the drawers and shuts the drawers just to see if it feels like.
And I've got one of those. It's
you know, and
yeah.
Well, if we never let them do it, then they're never going to know it's wrong. At what level's that correct? So it's really, really important. You know, just do what you need to do, mate, and then you'll learn across the way.
Yeah, I think because again, that's a difficult line to teach. Like I found him with us. I don't even know where he got them from. The keys. I had to stick him in a plug socket the other day. You know, he loves climbing on the window. He sits on the windowsill like a dog or a cat looking outside, banging on the window. There is, I know it is a combination of nature and nurture. And whether it's something I've done subconsciously or my wife and I have done subconsciously, my little girl, she's very capable, but not competitive in any stretch of the imagination. She could be running ahead of everyone in the cross country, for example. She got picked quite recently, and she'll stop and wait for a mate. And you're like, no, keep going. Keep going. So she's quite calm, quite delicate. Like emotional intelligence, considering she's 7, is ridiculous. More emotionally aware than I think most adults are. Whereas he is just laughing at fart jokes. He is boisterous, jumping, hitting, loves rough and tumble, tries to ride the dog, and all this other mischievous stuff. And but similar to you, and I guess what you're exposed to in terms of life lessons and what you want to be as a parent is, I know it's a bit more nuanced and grey than I'm probably going to make it sound now, but I think based on what you've experienced, you're either going to go, I want to break this because I don't want my kids to experience anything I have, because I'm very much similar to you, I think, in that what really stood out to me is you saying, it might come as I'm paraphrasing, sound as a surprise to people, but like love and protection. But that is masculine, I think. Like, and often some of the qualities we associate with masculinity and sometimes dubbed as like toxic or not being helpful. Someone might say, oh, love, that's a bit effeminate, isn't it? I'd expect more, or something like that. Someone of that archaic type mindset. Or you could go the other way. You model yourself based on what you have or you haven't exposed yourself on. And you see people in cycles of that, whether that be absent parents, whether that be a cycle of addiction of sorts, whether that just be not present in any kind of stretch of the imagination, or locked in the other way. I'm pretty sure none of them will listen to it, but I know very much a few guys that they work very hard, but very much their ethos is, I am a provider and that's it. So they won't see their children in the morning, they won't see them of an evening. And they're so exhausted of a weekend is all they want to go and do is play 2 rounds of golf. I didn't sign up to become a dad to do that. Yeah,
and I think what you're saying there is exactly the same. And I know I've got friends who do exactly the same. I couldn't think of anything worse. I want to be the first up. My little girl loves ballet. you better believe I'm the best ballet dancing dad on a Saturday.
I know. I've seen you.
And I would, and so I think masculinity over the past few years has taken a really, really tough turn, and I think it's because it's ruined by the minority. Like most things are. Football's ruined by minority all the time, and it's like what a lovely concept going watching a game of football is, but there's always going to be a minority that ruin it. Same with the toxic masculinity trend, whatever it's called, epidemic that's going on, that's not manly. That's not masculinity. Masculinity is being able to provide and love. It's being first and foremost what you need to be in order to protect and love your family. That's what masculinity. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm still very full on in winning. I still want to be a bloke. I still laugh at fart jokes. I still want to go to the pub and have a drink with my mates. Non-alcoholic one, but I still want to be there having a drink with them. But you know what I mean? But I don't do it because, and it's not because I can't, because my wife would be the first to support me to go and do it. And I'm the same for her. I want to be there for my kids. It's not that I can't do it. I've just chose a different thing that I would love nothing more. I spent 3 weeks out of 4 weeks away when I was in the military. All year. Over a accumulation of time, there'd be times where I said to my wife, I'm off to Afghan. I've seen 7 months. I couldn't do that to my little girl and my little boy now. I could not do it.
Was that a big driver? Sorry to interrupt you. Was that a big driver for you leaving?
Yeah, yes, a huge driver, yeah. So, so my business external started getting successful, so I had to get out. And the moment my little girl was on the way, I was like, I can't do this anymore, man. I just, I've every fibre in my body just wants to be there for them, and I've never been a big drinker. I'd love to go and play golf. I'd love nothing more than have the time, but that would be the time taken from work, not from family life. Family life is first in the priority list, and we all have priority lists. We can do whatever we want. Going out and being the provider and being out before your kids get up and coming home after your kids get into bed, after you've had the pint after work because you work so hard and you just go and do whatever. I'm not interested in that at all. Doesn't interest me 1 minute. If I need to sacrifice a bit of money to spend a bit of time, then that's what I'll do. But I know exactly the type of people you are, you're talking about, and it's just not me. And I think that's a conscious choice. We prioritize things, and it's up to each individual how they want to run it. But I think masculinity is being a bloke. I still want to win absolutely everything, but my little girl wants to win absolutely everything. She's got my mindset, and I still make it abundantly important about competition. Great taking part. But if you want to go and do it, you go and win, sweetheart, and you try your hardest. And if you don't, you're gracious in defeat, and we go again next week. Very simple. She comes out every single week after gymnastics, and it's like, oh, such and such got a certificate this week. And I'm like, well, go and tell her well done, and we're going to come back and get that next week. Don't worry about it. We go again. I think it's still really important. I think it's lost as well from the family. Like the notion that winning isn't cool anymore. I'm not into that. I'm into, no, we go and try really hard. I don't want her to think that winning is or losing is okay. If you're going to go and attempt something, we go all in. I'm not okay with just taking part and everyone gets a medal. I'm not into that side of life. I believe that we should encourage children to get involved and pat them on the back when they do get involved. But winners should be told they're winners. You should never be told you're a loser. You've tried really hard, well done. But a winner should be put on that pedestal to say, you've gone above and beyond. And that's something I tried to get in my look. And it's a very difficult dynamic to try and get right. But I think it's really important that I try to explain to her that losing is okay. It's okay because you tried really hard. But we're going to go back for that win. We don't leave that on the table now. We're not saying that losing that's it. That's the ceiling. You lost. Well done, sweetheart. You did as well as you possibly could. Oh, no. Do you want it? Yeah, well, we're going to work really hard then out, and we'll go back and get the mats out, and then you better believe I'm the best gymnastic dad in the country. And that's the way we roll, and I think it's really important for us.
Yeah, I think developmentally where they're at as well, and I think there's obviously there's political drivers behind participation drive, right? Because of health of the nation, and I'm not going to get into socioeconomics and childhood obesity and things like that, but I think that is a big driver behind participation, and that ultimately, like I'm the same as you, is it's nice to win, but ultimately that mindset of doing my bloody best. That's what I'd like for my kids.
100%. It's one of the only things I asked when we went. My little girl's just started school, and she's beyond her years. Like, she's very, very clever. She's very, very capable. And we went and had her first report, and it was lovely. Went into the school, and he was like, "Do you want to know anything?" I was like, "The only thing I'm interested, is she a nice kid?" And that's all I'm asked about. And that's my wife's a primary school teacher, and she explained that's the most single best trait you can have at that age is, you know, we can teach everything, but are you a nice person?
Yeah.
And that's really important to everyone. And that's all I was asked about.
Yeah, I echo that, because like, it's the nature of social media as well. I think like social media has this amazing ability to, obviously it's done an incredible amount of good, like, you know, we've met and everything else, but I also think it's got this potential doing an unfathomable amount of damage, because it dehumanizes people. It, you know, essentially, if you live life 2D through a screen, you see the way people talk to each other online. It's like you just, well, firstly, you wouldn't say it to their face, because I don't think anyone's got the courage to do that. But almost the things that are said, and like how cruel and callous they can be as well. You wouldn't, even if there were no repercussions, to look another human in the eye in person and say something pretty heinous, pretty disgusting to them, you just wouldn't do it. But social media has allowed this capacity to develop this, I don't know, like, quite, what's the word? Destructive mentality when it comes to others, and often for the compensatory effect of it elevating social status to a certain degree as well. Like, you see, there's a way of doing it, I think, but certain call-out videos, you know, the way someone is just built up and then just totally ripped down. And sometimes I don't know whether they deserve it. They don't deserve a hornet's nest to them. But some people do need to be challenged. But, you know, when you're, I don't know, like taking the mick out of someone's capability, like a disability, let's use an extreme example. Yeah. And all your fans are flooding there and taking the piss out of them. What does that do to someone?
It's a tough world, though, isn't it? And quite often I'm the type of guy to just go, because I don't think I've got like an emotional fibre in that sense, where, so 6-7 months ago, I think I had 50,000 people on Instagram. Fast forward now, there's like, and no dramas, nothing. I was, I don't know, golden boy of the military, travelling around, upskilling everyone on the Queen's Birthday's honours list, winning awards, and nothing, just love, absolute love. Fast forward, a couple of videos went viral, James Smith's podcast, etc., went up to 200,000 people. Now you get the snippets of hate.
Oh, really?
They don't, because they don't know who I am. They just want to get involved, and they're just type of people behind a thingy screen. And I don't know, but it's like you get little comments, and I just have a joke with it, because I come from a military background where there's nothing safe. Like every small thing that's wrong with it, we just it's. I was like, mate, is that the best you can do? And I'll just have a laugh with them and try. Lo and behold, some people go, I was only joking. I'm thinking, for a lot of people, it'll tear them apart. But I can imagine why it gets to people. It doesn't do anything to me whatsoever. And I couldn't think of anything. I couldn't think of any reason why you would sit there on social media and talk about stuff like that. I just think you absolutely.
I would never do it. I honestly have never gone into someone's comments and written. So I just haven't got the time. And I wouldn't do it. Yeah,
but contrary to that, my world is sports science, coaching. Science is a culture of doubt until proven otherwise. So I've got absolutely no drama with people arguing the case against something that I think is right. I think that's really healthy, and that's where we should be. But again, a lot of people don't like that type of interaction. They can't call me out on that. They're calling me out. I was questioning. That's like fight your corner. We're in social media. Yeah. This is exactly what we do even from degree level. We argue the cases.
That's it. We have a literature review, don't you?
It's what we do. Exactly what we do. So it shouldn't be any different on social media. If you want to stand up and say something, be willing to back it up. Don't get disheartened when someone goes, "Oh, we actually don't do that." And I think that's one of the reasons why the industry itself stalls. Because people are so worried to learn something new, because it often contradicts prior belief. We go and learn something. There's something like 1,000 articles that's released every single day in our world. And it's like, can't keep up with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with coming out on social. And I've done it so many times. Remember when I thought that? I was wrong. Science now tells us it's that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think So if you're not willing to do that yourself, you're going to be the first person to see your ass when someone questions what you're doing on social media. But then I think, so I'm okay with that. I'm okay with getting questioned. I'm okay with getting people saying, mate, that's a load of crap. This is this and this. Because I'll give it back and I'll say, oh, well, I believe it's this because of this. And I'm fine with that. Then it goes one step further where it's like nothing to do with whatever you're talking about. And it's just to tear you down. And I think that's personal. Because even if they don't know you, it's not personal. It's just because people are arseholes. And then that's what I'm not okay with. It doesn't get me, but I understand it gets other people. I'll be honest with you, I actually quite find them quite funny. Whenever someone tries it with me, I just give them back. You've made my day because it's the wrong person because I don't feel it, and I'm probably going to annoy you now.
You built different, Mike. You built different. I think that's the biggest distinguishing thing there is like you've got the challenging of ideas, whereas you've got an opinion, I disagree on that, or you presented a scientific fact. Have you read this as well? That's different. Yeah. I mean, I think if you can't handle that, that's an ego issue. You know, if you can't handle someone challenging you and debating you on your terms, because if you're talking about scientific literature and you're proclaiming to be evidence-based, then you're opening the door up to be challenged because science always trying to disprove itself. But then I guess it's just, you're just I don't know, like a fucking idiot. No other reason. I'm not even going to talk about what the content is. That's different. Yeah. And I think that's the stuff that drums on people. Mike, just before I forget about it, because we move past it too much, something that you said before we got onto that really, really spoke to me is your choice, and you choose to do those things with your kids and take time out. And, you know, from a place of non-judgment, I think that is such an important consideration because I have people often, you know, sometimes turn around and say, oh, are you allowed out? Or, oh, are you on daddy daycare? It's like, I'm a parent. I choose to do that. I don't need permission, but been my wife a long time. She supports me in every way she possibly can. Is if I don't want to come out that evening because I want to spend it with my kids, that's personal choice. Not because I'm not allowed out. I don't want to come out. Yeah, and that's difficult for a lot of people to get their head around because I think we're in this society of you want to fit in, or most people want to fit in. But then the older that we get, and I guess the more confident and more grounded we are in ourselves, is actually I don't want to be like everyone else. I kind of want to step aside and, you know, I'm happy to live a life that is defined by what I think is successful, not what everyone else is telling me I should be doing.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to revert it back a little bit to what I said before about not being masculine, going out before the kids get up and coming home. Sometimes that's not a choice. So sometimes in life, and I've been there before, where that's what is required to put food on the table, which is going to feed those babies. So if you've got to sacrifice being with them to feed them, then that's what you're going to do. There's the priority list. So there are some people out there with occupations, with constraints in their life that's where they have to go.
Absolutely.
That's masculine. I'm all in for that. I think you're absolute legend. You're doing that. You're taking every sacrifice you possibly can do. Contrary to that, if you're doing it because the wife should be looking after the kids and I should be out providing, then that's wrong. No, I want to be so hands-on with my kids. I want to put them to bed. Me and my wife fight over it. I'm reading the story tonight. I'm back from them. I'm feeding them. I'm getting up. That's me. And, you know, and that's what I want to do. And I think, and it's probably more so because I've not had it. And it's, maybe that's the reason why, I don't know, but that's what I think is right. And that's what I feel. And I make that conscious choice because I love spending time, and it's hard, isn't it, as a parent? It is hard, but love spending time with them. Absolutely love
Especially
it.
In the much, much younger years, you know, without sounding too cliche and old about it, is that you don't get that time back. And those are the formative years, you know. It pains me already to think teenage years are probably not going to want to hang out with dad, you know, so I've got to make the most of it now. But the other thing I think about is, you know, providers always spoken about, I guess, in a financial sense, but I like to think of it as we're care providers as well. You know, that is our duty as a parent to also be a care provider. So I'm quite fortunate. I guess quite fortunate is, I say fortunate, I've created it myself, is I have Thursdays off with my youngest. And before that, when my oldest was, before she went to school, I'd have Fridays off with her. That's one of the beautiful things that you can do, having the flexibility, being self-employed. And I appreciate not everyone has that privilege. But that was, you know, I'd rather lose the money. I'd rather lose a day's earning just to have that time. Yeah,
and it goes back to your currency being time. And that's what I see it as, is, you know, that's all I care about, mate, is having as much time as possible. And that's not to say that, I'd love more time in the world to go. I'd love to play football again. I would actually like to do that. I'd like to go back and play at a decent level of football. But I couldn't go and do that on a Saturday and I'd go and spend 90 minutes and I'd be all comfortable with that. But the travel too and all that type of stuff. And I was like, I just couldn't take that part out of my life. I'm missing too much. I'm not into it. And that's a choice. And that's a choice that I make, and other people make different choices. But family for me is first.
Yeah, I love that. And, each their own, but I'm kind of a man after your own heart there. I guess your career and your trajectory into fitness would be quite different to a lot of people's, as in, I think even mine was possibly a bit different. Is I came more of like an academic route, like similar to you, I guess, through study, is that there was a vested interest I had in it where I was level 2, then I was a PT, but then I went the S&C route. Like I want to make a concerted effort to work with the best of the best, and through TAS and various other different things is work with quite a range of athletes. So when I guess classic fitness, that was such a bizarre world to me. How did you find that? Because you'd obviously come from something hugely performance based, and now you obviously speak at expos and you're exposed to, I guess, like other facets that maybe you wouldn't have seen in the military, like physique competitions and bodybuilding. How did you find it stepping in?
Well, to be honest, I did see it in the military. So one of my jobs is I went through the ranks and the PTI ranking structure all the way up to the top and became what's known as one of the brains, where we travelled around the country and we upskilled everyone. So I was delivering presentations to every defence attaché in the world, Premier League football teams, all sorts of organisations. And the reason behind it, I was writing programmes that was taking off and winning me all these accolades, and people wanted to know why. And so when like Gareth Southgate's come in and delivering presentations to like members of parliament and certain organisations around the world, so public speaking was thrown on me, and as a soldier you do it. So I learned pretty quickly. So then leaving the military and so I only work from a performance standpoint. I don't work in any sort of aesthetics. I guess
that's what I was getting to, because everything you do is about being better. Whereas I think where other elements are quite aesthetics driven, it's almost an acceptable norm, which is quite bizarre that you get shitter towards the competition. If shitter's the correct phrase, you get physically weaker and less capable, but for the sake of aesthetics, it's okay.
Yeah, and so I just don't deal with aesthetics because it's not my line of work. It's not my subject matter of expert. So I'm not good enough for it, and I'd always pass them on to someone else who is. I think it's opposite ends of the spectrum. Those who look good on stage, if they entered my world and did the things I tried to do, they fall apart instantly because that's not what they're built to do. They're built to be aesthetically pleasing, not from a performance standpoint. Same detail. Some people who perform at the highest level wouldn't stand a chance. Well, most people who perform at the highest level would never be able to step on stage and replicate what those guys do. So I think it's two opposite things. So I'm very performance driven. There has to be a win or lose. And that's what I deal with now. It's very, I wouldn't say easy, but there's a clear line at the end where I think in the bodybuilding type of world, in the aesthetic type of world, in just your regular people who just want to be a little bit healthy, if there's no line, then there's no end, and I can't win or lose, and therefore I can guarantee you will never be happy.
Yeah, what is subjective?
And even the performance guys. Yeah, and that's what I like to take the subjectivity out of it. It's objectively, did we win or lose? And
this person
even then, to be honest,
they're
never going to be happy either.
Yeah.
Even then, performance-based is never going to be happy. And the reason behind that, it's ingrained in us that, once we win one gold, we won another.
Move goalposts.
Is that every time?
In terms of like a formalising, you said you did I know you did a lot of touring in the UK in terms of delivery and upskilling other coaches, other professionals. Do you still do a large proportion of that, or is it mainly your own business you focus on these days?
No, I still do that. I still do a lot of talks, and we're just about to release I am creating my own accreditation, so that we're now going to be able to upskill coaches. Yeah, so that's going to be coming live next year. That was my job in the military, so we've now built a team around us not so much as PTs. The Red On group is built on sports science. There's doctors, there's rehab instructors, there's accountability coaches and data analysis.
I'm sure I've seen a video of you making someone vomit on a Wingate test.
Yeah,
no, not actually vomiting, but I saw you. I saw you with the VO2 tests and the Wingate.
Yeah, we go deep. Well. Yeah, so we're still coaching at the elite level for athletes all over the world. What we're trying to do actually in the Red On group is to normalise elite athletes to the normal population. So we take anybody in. We don't just take elite athletes on. We take someone in with a great why and an aim. So that could be a lady who just wants to get up off the couch for the first time because she's let herself go since she's had kids, and her aim is, I just want to get up off the couch and I want to be able to walk to the shop, which is a K away, and walk back, or whatever it looks like. That's my aim. And I'm like, I'm in. Let's go. So you don't necessarily have to be a top 10 UFC athlete. I'm in on that because your why is very strong, and here's why I'm going to do it, whatever it is. Your aim is very clear. Here's what we're going to do. We learn who you are qualitatively, we learn who you are quantitatively, and we build the plan, and we constantly reevaluate until we go and hit that. And I am now fully in to go and do that, and I'll do anything to go and win that for you. That's what we do now. That's still what we do. And we then have, the Red On group now has a series of arms where coaching is still priority number one, but we then randomly sell socks, which is the most random thing in the world. That blew up out of nowhere. We've got.
I was going to say, it's been worth your time.
Yeah, it's gone ridiculous. It's gone outrageous. But I think it's the fastest growing sock company in the country right now, which is quite good. It's quite cool.
I need to restock socks for the winter, so I'll be checking out your store.
I'll send you some, mate. Don't worry. And then we've got Plug-in Rehab, which is the golden nugget of the company. It's unbelievable. So we've created a team of exercise rehabilitation instructors, guys who are in charge of things like the lower limbs at Headley Court, where all the injured soldiers go, special forces rehab instructors, doctors, who have this service whereby we basically plug into a coach's platform. So, and it not only becomes a great advert for your coaching because you enhance your team, it also keeps everyone from a monthly recurring revenue from the financial side on the books, because if someone gets injured or has any sort of niggles, the rehab team look after them straight away. And so they keep them on your books. It's an incredible service. It also gives you pretty much the best guys in the world from like a movement patterning point of view to help you program as well. Then they're delivering like seminars and stuff. So that's what we do from a plug-in rehab point of view. It's an incredible service, and that's growing ridiculously as well. So yeah, they're getting, and then obviously the book is doing okay. So we're getting there, mate.
You've done all right. You've done all right.
We're getting there. We don't sell.
Because it's kind of just like the bodybuilding aesthetic side, because I'd be fascinated to get your views on. So I've worked with a few boxers and MMA guys in terms of just basic S&C and nutrition over the years. Do you find it? Do you find it a challenge? I think it's more on the fighter and picking an appropriate weight class. Obviously, maintaining performance if they've got a strict weight class to fit into. I think years have gone by where I think the majority are beyond blowing up 16 kilos. I think there's still a fair amount of that. Like I don't know what your thoughts are. I normally suggest like stay within 10% if you're going to stick to a weight class. But I know some people like to eat, and I think perhaps an element we won't get into. I think it is make weight sports in general are kind of one that feeds into this pathology around eating disorders. I know a lot of the guys that I used to train with, they have their binge days, or when they were going through a camp, they'd do an 8-week camp, and then it'd be Sunday would be just ram as much food in as possible and not be able to move and make themselves physically sick. That's a tough one to negotiate, because I think most people, even if they work with general population, is finding a fine line, because most people have an aesthetics goal, but you also want them to physically get better. Can you talk me through your process with your MMA guys and maintaining performance whilst they drop weight?
Yeah, that's the hardest. So first and foremost, I'm a fond believer of staying in my lane. So I'm very good at strength conditioning. I'm qualified in nutrition, but I'm not the best. So I hired the guy who sits on the highest board of nutrition in the country to come in and manage that situation for me. So dropping weight and increasing performance is one of the most hardest things in the world. So there's some incredible people out there who do an incredible job, and who do both. that's not me. I literally focus on the performance side of life and the weight and how they feel themselves for what I'm asking of them and for what they do in what I call the tactical and technical side, actually what they do in the ring. That's on them from a boxing point of view, and they're like their tactical and technical coach, and then from a nutritionist to ensure that they're fueled enough for that and they lose the weight that they need to sit in their category. Stay in your lane on that one. I'm a very, very fond believer of that.
Yeah, because you see how things have blown up, and I think rugby and MMA to me are the biggest testament of sports that have really embraced S&C. I found it's come on a long way, but years ago working with footballers, as a culture, it was always something you're fighting against, because much the same as you were saying in the military, they're always drilled, just do more, just play more football, just play more football. Natural talent only gets you so far. So yeah, MMA, less so boxers. I think boxing is one of those, I don't want to say archaic sports. It's obviously a very classic, I'm a big boxing fan, sport, but it's very much of the more reps, more running, more time in the ring, more time sparring. And even when you watch some of the guys sparring now, the crazy sparring. Who was I watching sparring the other day? It wasn't, I was watching Ferguson vomit next to David Goggins. Have you seen that video? It's just quite literally a walk.
What is going on?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Because everything I know of and I've heard of as well when it comes to Ferguson is that mentality. Okay, everyone can work on their engine, but that mentality, he's always had that mentality, that grind, willpower. Yeah. So what else is he getting out of Goggins? Goggins is a freak, I don't think by any stretch of the imagination we can say that's admirable in terms of what he's achieved, but physically fall into bits. I don't think anyone wants that. He's just he's an outlier. No one else can get away with what he does.
Yeah, and I don't get it. I think off season, maybe if you want to go and see how far your mind can go, crack on. But I think fight camp, that's fucking stupid. Excuse my French. I think it's a load of shit. I think it's maybe what he's done is he's gone, do you know what? This is probably my last fight. Let's create some media hype. I'm going to do it. And let's get the money rolling. Let's get some financial freedom. Let's get some media coverage that I can carry on posting, like Conor McGregor's doing now. Conor McGregor's finished, hasn't he? Is he ever going to fight again? I think he's just playing his cards where I'm coming back. And he's selling a bottle of vodka off the back of it, a bottle of whiskey off the back of it. And I think he's very clever marketing, and maybe he's doing it that way. But I can't see how it's going to give him that edge in the fight. Because the fight isn't going to go 12 rounds or 5 minutes, is it?
No.
Now, if that's the case, then it's the case of no taps, no one, and it's just basically it's going to be fizz. First person to fold. Maybe that's going to help him. I don't know, but it's not. If he doesn't improve his tactical and tactical side, he's going to get choked out anyway. It doesn't matter how. You're not going to be going up. Or who's going to carry the boats when you're getting choked out? It's too late.
Well, that's it, isn't it? It's distinguishing. Like the engine is all very well and good, but we know what a freak sport it can be, and it can be a knee, it could be a punch, lights out in less than 30 seconds. Are you an avid fan? I know obviously you work with fighters. Would you consider yourself an avid fan? How do you see it evolving?
Yeah, I'm a fan.
Fighters seem to be getting smarter. But I do think what you're saying with Ferguson next, that's possibly, if he doesn't win it, that's his last fight, surely. He's going out, he wants to go out with a bang.
I agree. I think I'm really moving away from boxing right now. I just think we were having this conversation over breakfast this morning. It just winds me up with the organisational structure of it and just how people aren't fighting each other. It just does my head, and I just think, we go back to, it winds me up. So UFC's got it right, but obviously the boys and girls don't get the fees that they deserve because they get held over cards. But yeah, I'm going away from boxing, and really, I'm really struggling to like it at the moment. Someone said to me the other day about their media time or their YouTube channels and stuff of like Tyson Fury and Eddie Hearn is down by something like 90%. Because no one's asked anymore, because they're sick of hearing the same stuff over and over again.
It just seems to be rematch after rematch. The fights that people want to see don't ever get put on. And I watched the Fury and Ngannou. I'm sure you watched that. Does anyone even care about Fury and Usyk now? No one cares. No, any legacy. I think I'm speaking to someone who can't do what he does, by the way, because he's a freak
Of course,
nature.
yeah.
Just think, you've got a legacy. If you care about legacy, not everyone cares about legacy, but undoubtedly one of the best heavyweights of all time. And Ngannou, who again is another freak of nature. I was quite excited to see that, just as a bit of a freak show. But I don't, boxing just doesn't. I don't have much interest anymore. I think my interest in boxing came from the 90s.
Yeah, and no, I was a bit younger, mate. I'm not saying my age, but yeah, I agree. So watching those, but they was fighting each other. Everyone wanted to fight. Everyone wanted, and I think that's because money wasn't as big as what it is now. So the moment money's been added in, there's a new card on the table but don't fight him. I can earn more money. Let's keep hyping it, and move to Saudi.
Saudis have got the money as well. Just to throw any.
I'm just out on it. I'm just so bored of it, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah. I won't bore you talking about it anymore. Then I'm hugely conscious of your time, your valuable, precious free time that you've given up to chat to me today, mate. Thank you so much. By the way, I might just add, I'm very sorry you're not going to get 200,000 followers like you did at James. My mum might. Yeah. My mum will probably follow you though.
We'll see. Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
My mum's like my biggest fan. What does the future hold? Like, I'm going to see you in IB for the next year. I know I'm definitely seeing you there, hopefully earlier in the year as well, but I don't know much about that at the moment. What's next year looking like for you? So
I released a book last year, and it was a bestseller. We did an exclusive deal for an audio format, first and foremost. So we had a 12-month exclusive deal. That's now finished. It's now getting released as a hard copy. So that'll be released in January. So that's going to be the biggest push. And then it's the coaching the coaches side of life that's going to come to fruition. My athletes have got some huge events going on next year where, we're going to go and watch them take over, podiums everywhere. And then myself, now the business is doing really well. I also want to go and compete again. So I want to go back into the athlete, and I want to go and find out what I'm made of again and go and test my resolve in the competition format. And then more public speaking, I want to go and talk and spread it. Pardon me?
Any particular field in terms of sporting endeavours? Any particular field? All of it.
All of it. Hybrid approach. Anything. Anyone wants it, I'm there. I'm going to go compete with them.
Oh, amazing.
See what happens.
I love that. Yeah. How many years younger? Do you know what?
I'm 32 now, mate.
Okay. Yeah. No, well, you're still in your prime.
That's it, mate. You know what? I just think, see what happens. Go and try to win. Pick an aim. We've got some Red On have got some great events that secret events that are invite only. They're going to be you don't want to get invited, I promise you. But they'll be invite only. Get invited.
I was just about to say, let me know, but maybe
stay away. Don't. But yeah, they're going to be ruthless. They're going to be hard, and they're going to test people's resolves and really push the boundaries of what the body is made of.
Oh, amazing. Sounds great. And then, like, personally, I guess home life and family still going to continue to be the man that you are.
Exactly.
How old are your little ones?
4, and my little boy turns 1 in 2.
I just turned 1, and I remember you saying, the willful toddler years.
Chaos, absolute bundle of chaos.
Did you have that? Did you have that with your eldest? We didn't have that with our eldest, so it was completely shock this time.
Oh, do you know what? My little girl was a pain in the arse, if I can say. We deserved my little boy because he is the best. He's so good. He's so timid, but then he's so you're just so happy to be around. Like, you've got to keep an eye on him because he will climb and do everything he can, but he will just play. He will just be so self-sufficient. If you didn't tell him it's time to get fed or it's time to do this or you've got to change his ball, he'll wrestle you when you try and change his ball. He'll want to go. He just wants to be left alone to chill and play. My little girl.
That's when the pull-ups come out instead of the fast ups.
Yeah.
Amazing, mate. I love that stuff. Genuinely, it warms my heart because I think it's such a. I think from a personal value standpoint, it's always something that really resonates with me because it's something that's close to my heart as well. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. I appreciate the work you're doing as well as in terms of being an industry trailblazer, because we're going through like a little shift seasonally in the fitness industry now, and it seems to be becoming more full circle, more, as you say, holistic focus, more health focused, more performance focused, and we're moving away from just like the diet culture, sports supplements marketing point of view. But yeah, thank you again, mate. Is there, if anyone wants to find anything more about you or hear more from you, website? Yes, you can get me at Coach Mike Chadwick across all social media formats, and then the book is The Red On Revolution. I'll explain why it's called that in the book. In
in more detail. But basically, red on's just before you leave the aircraft, and revolution's the term that was put on all the citations. Revolutionised something in the military when I was winning the award. So that's the reason. But it goes into detail exactly why. And then it's red on everything, really. Red on socks, red on challenge, top 100 fitness app in the world.
The takeover.
Yes, mate. We're trying.
Amazing. I hope everyone has enjoyed listening to that as much as I enjoyed chatting to Mike. Mate, thanks so much for your time. Speak to you soon, everyone.